my channel and welcome to the second day of Vlognukkah 2020. And so in today's video, as you can tell from the title, we're going to talk about the story of Hanukkah, why is it important, and how we celebrate, and my personal opinion on its significance and why I like the meaning behind the holiday. The festival of Hanukkah is celebrated by lighting a candelabrum with 9 branches called a menorah or a HANUKKAH. And this is mine. It's a new one that my mum got me this year. The one that I have, that I've had since I was a kid, is actually a Winnie the Pooh one, and it's really damaged because it's really old and it's made of like ceramics, and little rabbit's ears have fallen off. So my mum treated me to a new menorah this year, and this is mine. It's very pretty, and as you can see, it has 9 little candle holes. And here's my box of candles. It has 9 little candle holes, and the middle one, or the one that's separate from the rest, is actually called a shamash. And the shamash we use to light the other candles, as shamash means attendant in Hebrew. And so the main sort of celebration of Hanukkah is lighting the candles and saying the prayers. And because of the significance of oil in the holiday, as we'll get to a little bit later on, we do eat a lot of fried food. So that includes donuts called suffraginot in Hebrew, latkes, blintzes in my family. Other Hanukkah traditions include playing dreidel and giving gifts. Now, giving gifts, people think this started as Hanukkah is a Christmas adjacent holiday, and in countries where there are a lot of Christians and the Christian sort of celebration of giving gifts, Christmas in the wintertime, sort of leaked into Hanukkah, because not all communities do give gifts on Hanukkah. Some give gifts at the beginning or on the last day, and some families, like my family, give a present every day. And they're never big presents, they're always small presents, but my experience is slightly different because I grew up interfaith, and if you want to hear about that, go check out yesterday's video. Okay, so I'm just going to read from my phone the story because I don't want to get it wrong. Before I tell you the story, Hanukkah is actually religiously a very minor holiday, and the reason why everyone thinks Hanukkah is like the Jewish festival is because of its adjacence to Christmas, and it's not the most religious holiday, it's the most significant holiday in the Jewish calendar. So the story of Hanukkah is preserved in the books of the 1st and 2nd Maccabees, which describe in detail the rededication of the temple in Jerusalem and the lighting of the menorah. These books are not part of the canonized Tanakh, which is the Hebrew Bible, used by modern Jews, though Catholic and Orthodox churches do consider them part of the Old Testament. The 8-day rededication of the temple is described in 1 Maccabees 436 to 459, though the name of the festival and the miracle of lights do not appear here. A story similar in character and older in date is alluded to in 2 Maccabees 118, 136, according to which the relighting of the altar fire by Nehemiah was due to a miracle which occurred on the 25th of Kislev, and which appears to be given as the reason of the selection of the same date for the rededication of the altar by Judah Maccabee. The above account in 1 Maccabees 4, as well as 2 Maccabees 1:9, portrays the feast as delayed observation of the 8-day feast of Booths, Sukkot. Similarly, 2 Maccabees 10:6 explains the length of the feast is the manner of the Feast of Booths. So that is where the story sort of comes from. And in rabbinical sources, so the Mishnah and the Talmud are rabbinical sources written in later forms of Hebrew that Jews have used to discuss the Bible and the Torah in. So this is what the early rabbinical sources say. Megillah Tanat from the 1st century contains a list of festive days on which fasting or eulogizing is forbidden. It specifies on the 25th of Kislev is Hanukkah of 8 days, and one is not to eulogize, but gives no further detail. The Mishnah, late 2nd century, mentions Hanukkah in several places, but never describes its laws in detail and never mentions any aspect of the history behind it. To explain the Mishnah's lack of systematic discussion of Hanukkah, Rav Nissim Gaon postulated that information on the holiday was so commonplace that the Mishnah felt no need to explain it. Modern scholar Reuven Margolies suggests that as the Mishnah was redacted after the Bar Kokhba revolt, its editors were reluctant to include explicit discussion of a holiday celebrating another relatively recent revolt against a foreign ruler for fear of antagonizing the Romans. So before I move on, the Bar Kokhba revolt happened around 132 CE, and it was a revolt against the Romans, and it was a reason for a lot of stressful things for the Jews, and so you can understand what this is saying. The miracle of one day supply of oil miraculously lasting 8 days is first described in the Talmud, committed to writing about 600 years after the events described in the books of Maccabees. The Talmud says that after the forces of Antiochus IV had been driven from the temple, the Maccabees discovered that almost all of the ritual oil had been profaned. They only found a single container that was sealed by the high priest, and it was enough to keep the menorah in the temple lit for a single day. They used this, yet it burned for 8 days, the time it took to have new oil pressed and made ready. So the Talmud presents 3 options. 1, the law requires only 1 light each night per household. 2, a better practice is to light 1 each night for each member of the household. 3, the preferred practice is to vary the number of lights each night. Except in times of danger, the lights would be placed outside one's door on the opposite side of the mezuzah, which is a little prayer wrapped up in a little thing that goes on the doorway, or in the window closest to the street. Rashi, in a note to Shabbat 21b, says their purpose is to publicize the miracle. The blessings for Hanukkah light are discussed in Tractate Sukkah, page 46a. I'm not going to go on very much longer, but so the basic story is the Jews were fighting a war, the temple was desecrated, there was a mess everywhere, and the eternal light that burns in synagogues all day, every day, all year round was put out, and they didn't have enough oil to last as long it would take to make the new oil, to get the new oil. And it was only supposed to last for 1 day, but it didn't last for 1 day, it lasted for 8 days. And so we celebrate, we eat fried food to signify the oil, and sometimes we give gifts. And it's not a major holiday because clearly it doesn't take place in the Torah, and there's, as you can see, a little bit of unsurety, that's not a word, about where or why the tradition started. People think maybe it was too well known, so they didn't write about it, but maybe it was something different. So that is the story of Hanukkah, and the story of Hanukkah is a celebration of triumph in adversity, triumph after oppression. And I think that's rather significant and poignant to think about when we think about the hate that is being spread in our world. In every country, people are spreading hate against other people. There is a rise in racism and a rise in anti-Semitism and a rise in Islamophobia and transphobia and homophobia. And I think for me personally, Hanukkah is a time of year to reflect on all that we've done so far in facing the oppressors, but it's also really important to remember that the journey is not over, and metaphorically we haven't found our 1 day of oil that lasted for 8 days. We still need to defeat the oppressors, we need to carry on going, and that's what I take from the holiday of Hanukkah. Not just the lovely presents or the great food, but the need to recognise that we've come so far when we fight oppression and hatred in our world, but we haven't gone all the way, and we still have a lot to do. And it just sort of refreshes that fight in me to carry on. And especially as last year there was an anti-Semitic attack in my mum's hometown during Hanukkah, it really like solidified that for me, and that's why I wanted to share that with you. But now we've got all of the like official stuff over and done with, I'm going to tell you about some fun stuff. So I did make a video about our cultural and family traditions in the holidays last year. I'll link it up here if I can, if I remember. But I absolutely love the fact that my parents were like, right, okay, so these Christians, they have this like Santa thing, and like I actually think Santa's real because we do that too, but like what do we do with Hanukkah? Like who are the presents from? And my mum, I don't know whether it was like a family thing or it was my mum who came up with this, but she was like, yeah, the presents come from the Maccabees, and the Maccabees are obviously the soldiers that fought in that revolt. But I just want to gush about my new menorah. Like, how pretty. It's not a usual shape because it's not one of those like branches, but I just think it's rather pretty. I'm just gonna give you some time to look at it. It's just so pretty. And this is a standard box of Hanukkah candles, and I will just show you what the menorah would look like on day one. So we start putting the candles in from the left. So this one would go here. And this one would go here as a shamash. And then you would light them this way. But since there's only one, it doesn't really matter. But you would light them this way. And there's prayers that you say, obviously. Oh, and just thinking about the candles is we actually let them burn all the way down. We don't blow them out. And that's very common in a lot of Jewish practice involving candles, is that if you light a candle, you don't you watch it until it burns out. You don't like put it out. The same with the Shabbat candles and other candles. I don't know what's happening. I'm gonna have to do something to have these candles stay in, because this is dangerous. But I just wanted to be honest. To be honest with you, I just wanted a reason to show you my new menorah. This is my new menorah, and I'm very excited about it because it's the first grown-up menorah that I've ever had, and it's really pretty. So yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you learned something about Hanukkah. And if you're Jewish and you celebrate Hanukkah, I would love for you to let me know down below one of your favourite family traditions that you do around Hanukkah. And thanks for being faithful, and thanks for watching.
While we are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each night they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. Hanukkah, oh Hanukkah, come light them.